My name is Sheldon Farrington. Um, I work here at Liberty University full time as a resident director. It's my joy to come alongside students and pour into their lives, invest in them. That's what I've been doing for the past 7.5 years. From my time as a prayer leader, as a freshman, to now working full time as a resident director. I think for me, it's really hard to distill the growth of my faith to one single event, largely because just over the landscape of my life, there have been several people that were instrumental, sometimes in the most unassuming ways in the development of my faith. Just being able to reflect the care, the commitment, the compassion of God into my life. But with all of that being the case, my mother growing up had significant health challenges. Um, in middle school, she went to work one day and she didn't come back home in terms of her sickness. She was hospitalized. And before we knew it, what turned out to be a respiratory um, issue culminated into her being on life support and really to the point of death. And I just remember going through that week that she was hospitalized and getting updates from the doctor, which were not good in terms of her status and progress. And we got to the point where they were saying, hey, you guys need to call in the family. It's not looking good. And so I went through the school day. This is my freshman year of high school. And I went through the school day, had talked to guidance counselors over the course of the day, was able to make it through, got on the bus, came home, where my family, my mother's siblings, were all gathered in the house. And I knew this wasn't a good thing and that we'd have to deal with whatever information the doctors were giving us. But I pushed past all of the people that were gathered in the dining room, and there was a phone call. So we answered the phone call, and the doctors, communicated to us, unfortunately, your mother passed away. And I, of course, as a freshman in high school, didn't really know how to process that information. So I went back to the bathroom. I closed the door, the one place you can get privacy, right? And I just began to pray to the Lord. And it was a prayer of complete trust, a prayer in which I just said, Lord, you do whatever you want to do. If this is you taking her, my mother, fine. I'm fine with that. But if you would delight to bring her back, I'm fine with that. But don't do it without getting my brother and sister's attention. My brother and sister were not believers at the time. They had just walked away from the opportunity to know Christ and to pursue a life with Him. And I just knew that this was going to be a life-changing situation. And it was my desire that God would just use this as an instrument to get my siblings' attention and to draw him in a relationship with him. And I said, that's all, I'm asking. I will trust whatever the course of action uh, that you deem fit. But just get my brothers and sisters' attention. And from that point, just releasing my mother really to the Lord in this circumstance, I walked out of the bathroom and another phone call came through. And the doctor communicated to us that miraculously, he had used that language. Miraculously, my mother had come back to life and reached down her throat and removed the breathing tube out of her throat. And he said it was as if the hand of God reached down and guided the tube out. And he explained that normally, just like in an intubation, when it happens, normally that there's scarring that happens when the doctor removes this tube in someone's throat, but that there was no issue. There's a balloon that holds it in place. Usually that would be very destructive as it comes out. And it was as if God himself reached down and guided the tube out of her throat. And from that point forward, she got better and better and better. But I remember the prayers that went out and the people who just committed to pray and watching my uncle just lay his hand on my mother's body and to just call out on the Lord. And more than that, just that experience of being alone in the bathroom with God my Father and just experiencing his presence in such a way that I knew whatever the course of action, that it was going to be okay. And from that point, my mother continued to have health challenges over the course of her life. And at every turn, there was this confidence that whatever God chose, it was going to be okay. And that sort of conditioned the way that I continued to go through life. Throughout high school, into college, at all the twists and turns, at every juncture along the way, whatever happened, it was going to be okay because God is trustworthy and faithful. And this past December, my mother actually, she had a cardiac event and never regained consciousness. So through that process, I eventually made the decision to take her off of life support, and she passed away. And even in that, the peace that God provided was sure, and His presence was very tangible. And it just underscored the fact that in that instance, this was God saying, okay, now I'm taking her away, and it still is okay. And in a very real sense, over the course of my life, there's been people who have just reflected the comfort, the care, and the compassion of God, my Father. Encouragement, challenge, critique, all that has sort of formed and shaped me. But if I was going to offer an experience that was just most impactful to my faith, it would be that experience in the bathroom with God, my Father, knowing that whatever He did, it was going to be okay.